Hello and welcome to this special edition of Sports Science. I'm Kyle Morris.
And I'm Dylan Meyer. Today on Sports Science, we will be taking a look at one of the major components of tennis.
That being the serve. To help us better illustrate the mechanics of the tennis serve, we brought in Milton High School's #1 singles player, Kenneth Yap. Ken is 6'3" and weighs 165 pounds.
The objective of the tennis serve is consistency and power. The goal is to hit the ball within a certain vector and with as much force as possible, while keeping in mind that you only have 2 chances to get the serve in. Now, let's break this down step by step.
Let's start with the feet. While preparing for the serve, the feet determine your base of support, balance, and center of gravity, which, according to BBC Sports, is the most important part of the serve itself. The opposite foot of where you hold your racket should be in front of the other foot to maintain these 3 things. When the jump is at its highest point, Ken's feet are above the ground at a whopping 2 feet. That's equal to 0.14% of the height of the Empire State Building. The knees are also a key factor in the serve. To get a proper takeoff trajectory, Ken has to bend his knees at a 100-degree angle. His knees bending and straightening does a good job of representing a third-class lever.
Now, let us focus in on the upper body. The hips are another determinant of your balance and center of gravity. Debatably, the most important part of your body when it comes to the serve is your arm. The shoulder acts as a third-class lever when swinging the racket. The centripetal force causes the racket to rotate in a circular motion at about 180-degree rotation. The elbow, another example of a third-class lever, exerts the force on the racket by going from 45-degree angle to a fully extended arm at 180 degrees. The grip is also important for the serve because of its effect on the racket head angle. The grip name that is most commonly known for the serve is called the continental grip. The gap between your thumb and pointer finger should be on the shaft parallel with the racket head.
When you look into the serve of the swing, there are a couple things that are important to create a successful serve. The toss is the first thing. When throwing the projectile into the air, it's important to toss the ball slightly out in front of you. If you toss the ball directly over your head, you won't have time to get the racket on top of the ball. Also, if the toss is slightly out in front of you, then you can use your body momentum moving forward to get more power and speed on the ball. The ball should also be high enough to where you can make contact on your swing just right. Not too high so you won't get under the ball and create inconsistencies, and not too low so you can get the ball over the net. According to Popular Mechanics, the toss should be about 1 to 2 feet high. Mastering this repetitive skill will lead to a more powerful serve. Also, the racket plays a huge role in how the serve is completed. The string tension, or how tight the strings are, is important. The tighter the strings, the more power you have. The looser the strings, the more accuracy you have.
But the projectile is the most important thing in the serve. As the tennis ball hits the racket, the force of the swing is transferred to the ball, resulting in the ball crossing the net at a velocity of over 80 miles per hour. Some athletes can hit the ball over 120 miles per hour. Notice the recoil of the ball. When hit, the ball actually compresses in shape and bounces back to its original shape, meaning that the coefficient of restitution is at 1. Where you hit the ball is very important because this results in the type of spin the ball will have. Hitting the ball just above the center will result in topspin, which will increase the velocity of the ball when it hits the ground. Hit the ball below the center and it results in backspin, which will result in the ball decreasing in velocity. Both have huge tactical advantages. When you hit the ball, make sure you aim for the opposite box so that your opponent has a fair chance of volleying the ball back. Environment is a crucial component to the serve. There are 3 main types of courts athletes can play on: hard court, clay, and grass. Each has a certain benefit on the ball. According to a previous episode of Sports Science, the rebound off each surface varies. When dropped from 6 feet, the ball rebounds around 4 feet 4 inches on clay, 3 feet 10 inches on hard court, and 3 feet 4 inches on grass. As the ball hits the ground, you will again notice the recoil of the ball. but we also notice the sliding friction the ball has against the ground. This friction reduces the overall velocity of the ball by 40% on clay, 30% on grass, and between 32 and 35% on hard court.
Now that we have talked about each component of the serve, let's watch how the serve is done in its entirety. What Ken can do to improve the velocity of his serve is to practice the serve a couple feet behind the service line. This requires him to use more force when serving. To improve his accuracy, place cones at the opposite corners of the court and aim for them with your serve. So in a sense, target practice. Lastly, to improve his consistency, play a match where you only get one fault instead of two, meaning that you only get one chance to serve the ball.
To summarize, make sure your feet are equally spread and you have your knees bent. Make sure you have a good jump to obtain maximum force in the swing. Hitting the ball in the center of the racket will give maximum velocity. Where you hit the ball will result in the desired spin of the ball. And finally, make sure your racket is of proper size and have the proper string tension. Mastery of these repetitive skills will result in the desired outcome, and the only way to improve these repetitive skills is to practice each separately.
And that concludes this special edition of Sports Science. We'd like to thank Kenneth Yap, our sponsors labeled here below, and you for watching. For Sports Science, I'm Kyle Morris.
And I'm Dylan Meyer. Good night.